You are indeed the giver of all good gifts. We thank you tonight for all your blessings. We ask that you bless the Grand Island Town Board abundantly as they continue to seek your wisdom, guidance, courage, and strength. Be with them in their deliberations and help them to be wise in the decisions they make for the good of all those who have placed their trust and confidence in their leadership. Give them insight to lead with integrity, that their decisions may reflect what is right and good, and help them to make decisions that are for the good of all. All glory be to you, loving God, now and always, through Christ and the Holy Spirit, forever and ever. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to have public comments now. You can come to the mic, anybody, on agenda items only. Rules are, keep your comments to 2 minutes. If you go over 2 minutes, I'll cut you off. If you are disrespectful to any of the board or to this forum, I will also cut you off. The board is not perfect, and there's disagreements in towns like this, so we should be respectful of each other's opinions. With that, I will open up the public comment period for agenda items only. If there's any comments, please come to the mic. If there's not, before you say your comment, the attorney asked me to say we will have a public hearing next on 2420 Love Road, so please hold off for that. Please go ahead.
My name is Tom Thompson, 2487 Long. My comment is basically that I'm here in support of the agricultural movement here in the island. We want to continue working with the town on that movement. And on that note, we're hoping that the grant and the grant application comes through soon so we can continue to do that. And I'm not going to take 2 minutes because there's probably a few other people that want to make a statement here, so I'll just go sit down.
Hi, I'm Steve Burks on Pitts Road. I'm here with the Ag Group, but I'm just trying to voice my opposition to excessive regulations right now. I think government is way too invasive, and you're trying to regulate everything that people do, and you try to make everybody fit one mold, but people don't fit one mold, and it's not healthy for people to be in all one mold. So, thank you.
Nick Stuckert. I'd also like to speak in support of the agricultural movement here on the island. I also agree with the previous comments about there being overregulation, and I agree with the process to eliminate special use permits. I think that's been a long time coming. Also for agriculture, I think that everyone needs to be reminded it spurs other things and other investments. Cideries, breweries, distilleries, these things don't happen unless people have the agricultural base first, myself included. I'm looking to start a distillery here on the island. It's $1 million investment. As the town shows how committed we are to agriculture, it helps to reinforce that this is a good place to invest. Thank you.
Sheila Yaminsky, 1743 Whitehaven Road. I want to thank the town board for working with us and continuing to work with us to try to find a good solution for some of the agriculture issues that have come up. I want to address specifically the special use permits. The special use permits for the properties that are already included in the ag district are by their very definition considered to be overly restricted by New York State ag and markets. In an effort to gain closure on those permits, I know that many of you have had various ideas on how to solve the problem, and unfortunately each one of those solutions unfortunately brings up another problem or potential problem. So really what we would like to see is the special use permits eliminated for anybody who is in the ag district. There's a pretty rigorous process that happens in order to join the agriculture district. You have to go through a process where you stand in front of the county and explain your property. You have to be voted on by the Erie County Legislature, and you have to be certified by the county commissioner, or the commissioner for ag and markets, New York State Commissioner of Ag and Markets. So we've already proven that we are capable of farming ourselves without additional restrictions and regulations. Thank you.
Going once?
Roy Shipman, 2020 Fix Road. I just want to piggyback on what Sheila just said. The fact that the state of New York has a rigorous process in place already to deem us ag district capable people, it refutes the fact that you even want to make a law for these ag districts. I know the five of you are all capable people, but for us to have the Agricultural Department of the state of New York overseeing everybody already, for you guys to step in and not follow their guidelines and change the law or create a new law, it's just going to bottleneck the whole process and have us to fight you guys all the way to have the state come in and do it. So please, before you make steps, look to see what the state's already doing for us and not waste our time and yours. Thank you.
Marsh, 220 Winkler Drive. I moved to the island because it's a special place. We're very fortunate to have such a robust agricultural presence here. I also grew up on a farm. Farming is incredibly difficult. These guys toil from sun up to sundown just to keep animals alive, eggs for us residents to buy. The additional administration of permits and time required and money required is just going to make it that much harder. And us residents suffer. Being able to buy the fresh produce and enjoy the Christmas trees and visit the farms with kids, that makes us special. And we need to keep that in consideration. Thank you.
Okay, going once. Going twice. Public comment period is now closed. Moving on to the public hearing, we will now open the public hearing on special use permit application. Ooh, yes, correct. By Jonathan and Jennifer Conta at 2420 Love Road. Patty, please read the pertinent part of the public hearing notice.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the town board on Monday, March 20th, to consider an application by Jonathan and Jennifer Conta for authorization by the town board for a permit for special use to operate a home occupation, embroidery, silk screening, fabric, and sports apparel business on a premises located in an R1A zoning district at 2420 Love Road. That all interested persons may attend at said time and place and be heard.
Anyone like to speak on this application, please come to the microphone. Okay. We'll now close the public hearing on 2420 Love Road. Minutes. I'll entertain a motion to accept. Go ahead.
Make a motion.
I can approve it right now as well. Is there a motion to approve it?
He just did. I second it.
Second by Ray Billica. Is there a planning board? Planning board is for advisory. It's been out there for a while. We haven't heard anything.
Peter?
Peter?
Special use permit.
For the embroidery. Is there an urgency on this? I think we wait and find out. Let's just ask them. Yeah, let's wait. We'll close the public hearing and move on. We can do it next quarter if we have to. I don't think there's an urgency on this Cindy, is there any urgency on this? Doesn't seem to be. Refer to the planning board. Refer to the town board, we can then get feedback from the planning board. Minutes, I'll entertain a motion to accept the past minutes from regular town board meeting number 4 and workshop meetings number 6 and 7.
Move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Delacour?
Aye.
Veronica? Kenny? Madigan?
Aye.
McMurray?
Aye. Consent agenda, I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda. We received the following: building permits issued in February, facility usage at the Golden Age Center for February, meeting minutes from the ZBA for January. Is there a motion?
Are you doing the minutes?
Consent agenda. We did the minutes.
So move.
Second.
Roll call.
Delacour?
Aye.
Veronica? Kenny? Madigan?
Aye.
McMurray?
Aye. Communications from my office. So I think many of us agree that one of the best things happening in Grand Island right now is the agricultural movement. It's producing new business, small business, and increasingly larger business. That's improving the quality of life on Grand Island. We've had this discussion regarding special use permits for a long time. There's difference of opinions on it. My opinion in the past has been, I've laid this out before, I'll lay it out again, if there's a farm, the second point would be, is there an agricultural district? Is it a farm use? If there's a farm use and an agricultural district, you tear up the special use permit. I've had a little bit of a change. I think instead of doing a knee jerk for this, changing the law, I think we have a better option of doing something a little different. And I want the discussion from the board on this. I think there's a solution would be that we establish a committee charged with the responsibility to develop an ag and farmers protection plan on Grand Island. That committee now exists. This committee is called the Grand Island Agricultural Plan Steering Committee. It is made up of 4 members from the farming community and the chair of the Long Range Planning Committee. As part of the grant we will apply for, a professional ag and marketing consultant will oversee the process of creating a ag and farmers protection plan for Grand Island, working with representatives from New York State Ag and Markets, Erie County Planning Department, and the Cornell Cooperative Extension of Erie County. This group will provide an analysis of zoning and subdivision regulations to determine if they are farm friendly. They will also identify specific zoning changes or other actions required to mitigate impacts from the growth of the agricultural industry and farmland. Completing this entire plan usually takes about 2 years. But as part of this, what this committee is tasked with, I am recommending a moratorium for 9 months on special use permits in ag districts. After that time, the committee, not us, the committee, will be asked to make recommendations on how to move forward concerning this issue. I think this will also allow more stakeholders to get involved and to do a comprehensive review the right way, instead of doing something that may have implications we're not ready for. So that's my recommendation to the town board. Would be a moratorium on this issue as we refer it to the committee that's been established to get their feedback from it as they help us work through the grant process for a comprehensive agricultural district and agricultural protection plan for Grand Island. So I entertain a motion for that moratorium.
I'll second that motion.
Is there a motion made by Bevkin? Or somebody?
Well, I'll make a motion.
Okay. Second by Mike Madigan. Is there discussion on this point?
You know, I agree with 95% of what you said. First part of it, absolutely, positively. Support ag. People in the audience haven't heard this. Some people have. Board's heard it a bunch of times. I grew up on what could have been a farm. We produced more produce, vegetables, fruits than you could shake a stick at. That's how we lived in the winter. We sold it to neighbors, like put bushel baskets out by the roads, collected some money. One gentleman and lady talked about properties in an ag district having protections. They do. If you're a farm operation. Now, those of you sitting in the audience probably don't know anything about what we're talking about. But if you go to the Ag and Markets Law, and you read through the Ag and Markets Law, they talk about farm operations, which is a commercial enterprise. Here are my notes, right here on this piece of paper, from a discussion of 31 minutes with a gentleman from State Ag and Markets, who's the program manager, John Ritter. And he gave me a whole bunch of information on that. And farm operations absolutely do get protections from unreasonable or overly restrictive town laws. So if our town law says that your setback has to be 15 feet from a property line to put a shed up, but on that particular farm operation, it doesn't work. And you need to put it 5 feet from the property line. You put it 5 feet from the property line. That's all there is to it. Our law is overly restrictive. If our law is not overly restrictive, we have to abide by our laws. That's why we have laws. I think the stop sign at the end of my street is overly restrictive. No cars coming. Why do I have to stop? Just don't. The law is the law, so that's why it's there. So you don't get a free-for-all. I'm trying to make that clear to people. It's not a free-for-all. If you're a farm operation, you get a whole bunch of protection. And if you don't like the town law, all you gotta do is ask Ag and Markets. Ag and Markets comes back and says, town, your law is too overly restrictive. Okay, fine, do whatever you wanna do then. But if it's not overly restrictive, you do have to abide by the town law. And if you don't believe me, I will give you John Brennan's number, who said, call me anytime, and I will let you call him and talk to him. I don't get why a special use permit is overly restrictive, even to a farm operation. But I'll say that if farm operations don't want to get one, they don't have to. But why is it overly restrictive to anybody? And overly restrictive doesn't even mean anything, because they're not a farm operation. These people that want to run a home occupation, they want to do silk screening and stuff like that in their house and then sell the t-shirts and apparel. They have to come in for a special use permit. I want to be a barber in my basement and I want to cut hair for a couple people. I want to be an insurance agent and I want to have my insurance business at my house. I have to come in for a special use permit. I want to put a pool up. I have to come in for a permit. I want to put a fence up. I have to come in for a permit. I want a hunting license. I have to come in for the hunting license. You have to do things. It's not that hard. You come in, you fill out a form. It's $20. Yeah. You get inspected yearly. For the 7+ years I've been on the board, when people have been inspected and something's been wrong, they've been told to correct it, they corrected it. We've renewed every single special use permit. Somebody says I'm wrong. I could be. I'm not always right. And I might be wrong in a case or two, but I don't ever remember denying a renewal for a special use permit. You also remember that a special use permit is a permitted use. We cannot tell you you can't have a special use permit. So why is that overly restrictive? It's not even, doesn't even make sense if you're not a farm operation. What about neighbors? Don't the neighbors have a right to at least say, I have a concern? Or they can say, you know what? I know this guy. This family's great. You know what? They're good. Give them the permit. It gives the opportunity for the public to come to that microphone and tell the town board what they think about that specific special use permit, whether it's an agricultural animal permit, or by the way, if you're running a farm and you don't have agricultural animals, you don't need a special use permit. You can grow as many vegetables as you want, or fruit trees, or lumber, or I don't think bees are an agricultural animal, so they might be. But besides the point,
Okay.
there are many places where you don't even need a special use permit. agricultural animals that are going to be living in residential areas next to neighbors, and you're gonna make the neighbors complain about their neighbors to enforce laws that we have, pitting neighbors against neighbors. I don't see the problem of coming in for a special use permit, saying, I wanna do this, okay, fine, we're done. It's my comment on it, I just don't get it.
Before we vote, I'll make a quick comment.
We're not done
Go ahead.
commenting.
Go ahead, Beth.
Me next?
Yep, you're next.
Okay. I've also had a lot of conversations, and I talked to Mr. Brennan too for an hour and a half this week. I also talked to a man from County Planning Environment, Mr. Redden. And there's a lot of misinformation, and a lot of confusing pertaining to the Eggs Market District. I mean, that much is perfectly clear. Ray has some points, he's made some good points. I also talked to Mr. Brennan about some of that too. What he also said, which makes a lot of sense, is that we are in transition. This Eggs and Market is a new district here. We want to encourage farming. He also conveyed that yes, there are different levels of and different types of farming. The reason I like this process, and he agreed with it, was that we're in the middle of doing an ag and markets overlay for our master plan. And we have appointed a steering committee. And on top of that, we're going to be doing, there's a second grant that we haven't talked about, which is to do the zoning for the eggs and market master plan, as well as a farmland protection plan. All of that will be incorporated into the zoning. And there's a $15,000 grant that will actually help us do that and implement that. And at that particular time, and why I think this is a good idea, is that it puts it all into the hands and the responsibility directly on the shoulders of farmers, with the guidance of the state Eggs and Market, with the county, who's going to be sitting at the table as well, with the rest of the Long Range Planning Committee is also involved. And I think that you will be coming up with the zoning, and you will find out with Mr. Brennan and all the other people that are going to be resourced to you, like Cornell, Diane Held is another one, or is it Barbara? Diane. I think that's where it should be. I think it should be on your shoulders, because it's your livelihood. And I think that you may find out as you go along, when you're working with all these people, that you may come out with a different product than you thought you were going in. That is exactly what I have found, having done a lot of research into it, looking at family protection plans from other towns, Town of Nichols to be one, which they have an excellent one. Read it from front to back and spent a lot of time with Mr. Brennan. Ray's not totally all wet when it comes to some of the things that he's talking about, but there is a lot of confusion, and I think that with the help, not the help, you are charged with doing this, and you are charged with coming forward. And once this is done with all these professionals at the board with you, you're going to be responsible for the zoning and updating, making sure that our laws aren't overly restrictive, changing what needs to be changed, bringing it back to the board, the planning board, and us, the town board, to approve. I think it's a good way to go. I just think that you guys have got a lot of work ahead of you, and a time frame that is, I think, aggressive, and that should be first on your agenda to do it. My input.
So Nate, first question, for the ag board that you're talking about, is that an advisory board?
It already exists, we created it already. We already had a meeting where it's already in place. So we can refer this to them now. I'm going to say a couple things about this. I think there's been a history of town overreach in the lives of citizens on Grand Island. I think some gentlemen, which one of the gentlemen here said that. something about we're not all the same. I don't want to create a giant gated community. I think people are different and property uses are different, and we should be out of people's business. And I continue to believe that. A special use permit is for a special use. Now, I feel like we've had this conversation 100 million times. So for those who've heard it already, I apologize. When you're in the ag district, you've already been designated as an agricultural place. It's not a special use. That's the essential difference. And if you argue that it's a hobby farm, it doesn't deserve being an ag district, well, then they don't need a special use permit anyway. Because under our law, we have a right to farm law that says everyone has the right to farm. And it can be smelly and dirty, it's all in our law. When we talk about following our law, I think we should follow our law. And another part of our law says if there's a dispute, we don't need to have a hearing. There's a process in the law for disputes with farm areas. You get together, you have a resolution. It's all in there. So I do think, however, because what Bev said, there are these misunderstandings about what this means and misinterpretations. As we go through this process, we will create a firm understanding among the citizens and the town of what is and what is appropriate. And I agree we need to start that as soon as possible. I'm glad we've already kind of gone on our way.
Okay, so just because I have a couple things that I wanted to cover. So one of the things I think you're proposing, Nate, just to be clear, is getting the grants approved and moving forwards with the activities that those grants are going to fund in terms of some of the required gaps that exist in our process right now. Is that correct?
Yes, we need a professional. And part of the process will be getting grant money to get a professional to help advise us about the way the law should be revised.
So the only thing I would like to see us do a little different, and that's what I was going to propose as part of this whole process is, I really think there's a couple ways in which this can be managed. And I know, Ray, one of the things you mentioned was neighbor versus neighbor. I think even in the case of the neighbor versus neighbor situations, we're still approving the permits as you indicated, and there's still a neighbor versus neighbor issue that still kind of continues beyond that point. To me, at this point in time, before 2004, correct me if I'm wrong, there was no special use requirement for the ag animals. I personally think that, I think there's two ways in which this can be regulated. The code still exists. I think we should eliminate the requirement for a special use, not just for the ag districts, but across the board. Codes still stay in place. If there's a complaint, code enforcement can still manage it. There's the normal process, whether you're in an ag district or out. If it's a reasonable law, you need to comply with it. But I think elimination of the permitting process is, to me, it's one of those things. I mean, if we're looking for the town government to educate the farmers or the animal owners, I'm just not certain that we're really qualified to do that very well. I think enforcement of the codes we should be doing to a degree, but more reactively than proactively. And I say proactive is a positive thing, but I think, knocking on someone's door and saying, I'm the government and I'm here to help you, that's not what I want to do. I want to eliminate the regulation. I think there is not a need for it, and I think it should be managed through complaints and code enforcement, not through actively requiring this permit, because I just see no return on the investment. I don't see where, you mentioned that we've never rejected a code. And even if they're in compliance, the day that the code enforcement shows up, I think 10 days later they could be out of compliance. So I don't really see a very good value in the code enforcement process. So I would like to separately, rather than, I'd like us to just pull out of your proposal, Nate, the 90-day or however long, 9-month moratorium, and just straight out deregulate, eliminate that permit
All
requirement.
special use permits for every use.
Only for
No.
agricultural animals.
I can't agree with that either, because you're not addressing just the eggs and market. You're addressing everybody on Grand Island, and there are people who have horses for their own use that might be in a neighborhood that do need to have a special use.
We had this today, we had on our agenda, a special use permit, and there was public hearing, and the neighbors could get up, and we got a lot of great letters from neighbors saying, this is a great business.
That's not the type of permit we're talking about. We're talking for ag animals
Okay, but
only.
here's my
Because you
point,
talked
and
about
I'm
it in every
talking
neighborhood.
specifically about high-density neighborhoods. High-density neighborhoods with a special use permit, the neighbors have the right to come in and say, my neighbor's great, let them do it. Or, no, we've had a problem, we live on a 50 by 100 lot, and I don't want 100 chickens on that lot. I don't want pigs and goats and everything, and then at least they come in and they have a right to say what they want in their neighborhood.
The codes still stay in force, and like you said, the neighbor would complain, and once again, it's neighbor versus neighbor regardless. So you didn't prevent anything.
So then why have them on any other business?
This is a permitted use, so you can not have 100 on a small little postage stamp place, but you can have
Why
1,
should
2,
this
3,
business
whatever.
here, this embroidery business, need to come in for a special use permit then? Why do they need one?
I think I have an
I'm not gonna
So I
increase the
think I
scope
have
of
an
what I'm
answer.
proposing.
Because the town is moving towards, at least I am trying to move the town towards an embrace of agriculture, making agriculture,
Yeah,
let me
we all
finish my
want
comment.
agriculture.
The
We all want
let
it.
me finish my comment so you understand. The embrace of agriculture comprehensively as a priority for the town. So what I propose, I'll change the resolution slightly. That I propose we establish a local law, which is what is required, the attorney has told me, to establish a 9-month moratorium on the requirement to have a special use permit in an agricultural district within the town of Grand Island. During that time, we will work on the comprehensive revising of our code so we don't have to address these issues one-off, but we can address some of the issues that Mr. Aronik is talking about, and some of the issues that Mr. Billick is talking about, so we can have a comprehensive view of this, because obviously we do not have either the IQ or the willpower or the knowledge or the knowledge base to do this ourselves. And by going through this process, working with the experts, we can get it done.
The knowledge is, how can we protect the neighbors in residential, in high-density residential neighborhoods? How can we protect them? There's nothing.
So I'll entertain a
I think-
motion for that local law.
So I think we're still in discussion, because I think this is a worthwhile discussion.
Wait a minute. That's really assessment. It's the same one we've already made in
But-
second.
It's essentially the same, but I'm directing the attorney to draft a local law, which will make the moratorium effective. That's the difference.
I'll second that. I also want to say too, to Chris, is that I too think that we need to protect the neighbors. And I do think that this process, when it comes out the other way with the zoning and with the expertise of, because these people aren't going to be there by themselves. We're going to have Ag's Market, and they're going to give them those definitions. And that they are going to come out the other end of the process. And I think it's
So
going
why
to,
not protect them now if you're saying that's gonna be the case?
because right now, it's in such a,
Well, if you're saying,
flux.
I'm assuming you're saying that because you met with John Brennan and that's what he told you. So why not protect them now until that board gets done with, and then John has a time to come in?
there's still protection. We still have in our law a dispute committee. So there are places for people to go if they have a problem.
There's no option there for a neighbor to come in and say yea or nay.
We are
I don't
overemphasizing
think
the
we've ever-
concerns of the hypothetical person versus the concerns of the people in the audience and the people that are farming.
I don't
do
think,
not want to go through this.
I don't think we've ever had a case where we've denied a permit.
We
Even
can't. Mike, we can't.
Right, so
Understand, a special
Chris's,
use permit is a
Chris's,
permitted use.
Chris's example where a neighbor comes in and complains and says, I don't want
Or not.
geese next door to me, isn't gonna stop that from happening.
You know what it does though? And you talked about renewals and what happens and stuff like that. When you originally get your special use permit, the town board has the ability to put conditions on that permit. So if there's a, for instance, where something could be done to mitigate the potential problem, it's done at the time of issuance of the special use permit. The conditions are put on then. That's the only time the conditions can be put on. They can't be put on subsequently to at a renewal time or anything like that. So we listen to the conversation from the people that are affected by the request for the special use permit. For instance, if the insurance agent wants to have a special use permit to run their business out of their property, and where they're gonna park their car is directly adjacent to my deck.
But we're not talking about that.
But we are talking about putting conditions on. The ability to put a condition on to satisfy things that might be a concern in the neighborhood.
See, this is
So
only
what
for
happens
ag
is-
animals though.
Mike, you're not getting what I'm trying to give you. I'm giving you an analogy,
Right.
which says that I have a deck that I sit on at night, and I would like a fence put up there so I don't have to look at parked cars coming in for the insurance agent. It's the condition that can be put on by the town board at that time to take care of that potential problem. That's what a special use permit could be when somebody comes in for an agricultural animal special use permit. You can go through those things and you can decide whether there needs to be any conditions or not. If there is, you place them on. If there isn't, there you go, have your special use permit, go ahead, do whatever you want to do there, according to our laws.
My preference would still remain to remove the special use requirement
I know you said that.
for ag animals.
Yeah.
And as an example, I had 50 geese on my front yard today. So, I mean, we're in a rural community, and I do think that
What's that, what are you talking about?
they're wild geese.
Yeah, they
We're in
are.
a rural community. And I just,
Not
I'm
in
a,
the rural.
I think you have to be
Yeah,
careful about,
Sandy Beach and Falconwood and River Oaks and Driftwood Colonial, and I just keep on going, are not rural communities.
I think you misunderstand, Ray, I hear what you're saying, but with all due respect, I think you misunderstand the way rural activity is going. If you go to one of the biggest rural communities in the country, is Brooklyn. They have these backyard farms now. Things are changing, agricultural. I was to a facility once that had container boxes with strawberries 30 feet in the air in the middle of downtown Minneapolis. I mean, things are changing. And so we're trying to embrace agriculture in all its varied spectrum and many forms.
and there still needs
Let's
to be
do this.
protection,
Let's
but
make sure
right now we're
that
talking
when
about.
you say we're all embracing agricultural, I hope you're including me in that, and I hope you're including Chris in that, because there's garbage out there that's saying that we are against agricultural farming, which is as far from the truth as you could possibly be.
Okay, you're
So-
for farming, so let's have a vote.
Of course.
So please,
What about the rest of the people in the community?
so let's have a vote.
okay, so yeah, let's clarify what we're voting
We're
on.
voting on a local law to establish a 9-month moratorium on requirement to have a special use permit in an agricultural district within the town of Grand Island. And we first and second, roll call.
Kinney?
Aye.
Madigan?
Aye.
Delacour?
Thank you.
Veronica?
Nay.
McMurray?
Aye.
I'd like to make a second motion. I'd like to make a motion to initiate the process for elimination of special use permits for the agricultural animals and the drafting of an associated law, which has already been drafted. The local law would amend the zoning code to change the keeping of agricultural animals from a specially permitted use to a permitted use. As part of this motion, a hold would be placed on an issuance of special use permits for agricultural animals which already occurred, so that part can be removed. So it's really just the elimination of the special use permits, not just for the agricultural districts, but across the board on that.
Is there a second?
What does that mean?
It doesn't remove any codes. All it does is prevent us from having to proactively, it prevents the inspection requirements and the need for a person to come in and get a permit.
So if a neighbor calls and says the manure pile is too close to
They
my
have to
deck,
still comply with all reasonable
so who
codes
would-
of the
who would
Grand
do that
Island.
inspection?
It would be still ideally, I think one of the things
So
Nate
how does
mentioned,
that change anything?
one of the things Nate mentioned was, so we do have an agricultural committee ideally they would police themselves, so if a complaint came in,
They're talking
ideally.
about their farms. I mean, they're in the
Ideally
ag
would
district.
come, ideally if an ag animal issue comes up, I think it should be managed through the agricultural committee, and hopefully they self-police, and otherwise it comes to us with code enforcement, because code enforcement's always involved, and then
So
it
you're
would be
asking them
managed
to
appropriately.
manage all animals on the island, not just in the ag district. They are an ag district. They're an entity of their own. They're not there to manage all of Grand Island.
Is there a second? Listen, I think I'll second it. I think it makes sense to have this. I think we need to have the removal of this part of the law. I mean, it's just, we can deal with this.
In my
I
argument
still
too
think-
is before 2004, there was no permit requirement. I'm not aware of any and I was here for a number of years prior to that, not aware of any disasters occurring. And I do think that if we have an ag committee or individuals that self-police, and I think we do have a very good agricultural community now developing here, that will help self-police and make sure that we have a good reputation. And that's what, I have trust that that's what we can do.
The part of it that I'm reluctant about is that we do not have a comprehensive plan in place, so it is a bit knee-jerk. But the part that makes me want to go for it is because we, like you said, we haven't had this in the past. There was a thought in the past of removing the whole process in 2014, or 2004. So I think we can do that, and I think we can work it out. That being said, those in attendance today, we're venturing into a whole new world here for Grand Island. So we really need to work together to make sure that it works, and that we police ourselves, and make sure that we work with our neighbors, so that we do not have a backlash that hurts something that's very, very special.
That said, I still think that it's a little bit knee-jerk, and I think that we have a process of a comprehensive plan that we have put in place with the Ags and Market in the forefront to go through, and the zoning and everything will be taken care of in that process. And as that comes out, then tackle the rest, but to just throw everything out with the bathwash doesn't make sense to me. I'm all for what you've already proposed with the moratorium and having our ag people, who I think are the ones that should be making those decisions for their own community. But to throw it all up in the air and say, well, whatever, we do have communities where I think until we have those laws in place to protect them, after our comprehensive plan, we may find it a totally different world.
So,
But I would like to ferret that process out.
roll call?
I just want to clarify, Mike, from your memo, are you taking out part of that last sentence?
Yeah, so just starting it as part of this motion, you can
Right.
eliminate that part. So really, it's just eliminating the ag animal special use permit island-wide. And just one last discussion point is, there's a lot of unpermitted current agricultural animals scattered throughout the island. It's just a matter of whether you decide to come out and ask for a special use permit, or it's happening in the background out there.
You know what, and those are responsible people because we haven't had any complaints. It's the ones that aren't responsible that we get the complaints on that I'm concerned about.
It's very rare.
Well, it's
And
not
then it's
rare.
code
It's
enforcement.
not rare.
I think there's some truth to what you're saying here. I think there's a difference between ag districts where people have gone through a process and are qualified and have put a certain amount of effort in versus the entire island.
There's also a difference between a 50-foot frontage and a 300-foot frontage by 100, because you wouldn't see an animal and you wouldn't, the problems are when there's a 50-foot or 75-foot frontage and you've got neighbors right on top of you and their decks are right in the backyard. The 300-foot frontage lot, you would never even know an animal was back there. And they're responsible.
There's a code, the codes can be enforced, and should be enforced. Nothing really changes, the only difference is the government intrusion would no longer continue.
Roll call?
Madigan?
Aye.
McMurray?
Aye.
An aye. Delacour?
Nay.
Veronica?
Nay.
Kinney?
Nay.
Okay, moving on. Communications from Ray Bill, oh, therefore, we have the supervisor's reports for the fiscal quarter of 2016. You have copies in your packet. Please record as noted in file. Communications from Ray Billica, when you want to discuss the quotes and materials to build the pavilion at Veterans Park.
Yeah. Proposing to acquire the materials for construction of a 40-foot by 100-foot pavilion at Veterans Park. Following the procurement policy, the lowest quote is a quote from Electrical Lumber in the amount of $14,919.32. Make a motion to approve this purchase.
So moved. Second.
Roll call?
Or is there discussion?
Discussion.
So I do think, Ray, you should probably mention that you're getting good volunteers and et cetera.
Now, there's been a conversation on how to get this thing put up for the last 2+ years. Looks like we found a way in cooperation with some help from the Little League people. They come in contact with a union carpenter. That union carpenter said that they'd be more than happy to come with a couple of their folks and erect the pavilion as a volunteer effort at no cost to them.
And that's, I think,
And I think
fantastic.
that's huge, and that's the way you get things done sometimes, is it all comes together. So the town has to purchase the material, procurement policy was followed, and the motion's on the floor to purchase the material.
Yeah, I think it's the right way forward. Any more comments?
I also think it's a good idea.
Roll call?
Delacour?
Aye.
Veronica? Kinney?
Aye.
Madigan?
Aye.
McMurray?
Aye. Communication from Councilman Mike Madigan. Mike, since we already had a moratorium on this issue and we voted on the second issue, I'm going to move on to communications from our town attorney.
Correct.
Peter Godfrey, we need to authorize myself to sign 2 MOAs, one for Teamsters and one for CSEA, which will give pay increases. Peter, can you elaborate on this?
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 separate MOAs. One with the Teamsters is to address and issue enabling for a lower salary structure to be in place to facilitate the hire of additional employees. It's been discussed with the Teamsters unit and is agreeable to them. The second with CSEA is to facilitate the compensation structure that was contemplated in the 2017 budget that was enacted by the board, but needed an MOA to catch up the provisions of the collective bargaining agreement to be effective. So we've negotiated with the union to affect that as well. So both memorandum of agreement are distributed to the board and can be voted on at this time.
Entertain a motion to authorize the supervisor, myself, to sign the MOA for the Teamsters.
So move.
Second.
Roll call?
Delacour?
Aye.
Veronica? Kinney?
Aye.
Madigan?
Aye.
McMurray?
Aye. Entertain a motion to authorize the supervisor, myself, to sign the MOA for CSEA.
So move.
Second.
Roll call?
Delacour?
Aye.
Madigan?
Aye.
Veronica? Kinney?
Aye.
McMurray?
Aye. Communications from Parks?
I just move the appointment. Motion to appoint Ms. Jennifer Mentor to the title of Rec Leader in the Government.
Entertain a motion to appoint Jennifer Mentor as the rec leader for senior citizens.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call? Sorry, I'm trying to catch up readings.
Kinney?
Aye.
Veronica? Delacour?
Aye.
Madigan?
Aye.
McMurray?
Aye. Communications from Park Maintenance, Tom Dorak. Tom needs permission. Go ahead.
Suspend the rules for that.
No, we don't, after this.
No, not for this.
Tom needs permission to move Jeffrey Reha from part-time to seasonal 40 hours effective March 21, 2017. The pay rate of $12 an hour.
So move.
Second.
Roll call?
Delacour?
Aye.
Madigan?
Aye.
Veronica?
Aye.
Kinney?
Aye.
McMurray?
Aye. Communications from Code Enforcement, we do a don't see any issue with the alteration. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the site plan reapproval. Second, is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We need to suspend the rules to get a few housekeeping items finished. First one is the Golden Age Club. Oh, sorry, excuse me. I'll make a motion. Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
First one. The Golden Age Club needs to hire the following people at step B, $9.93 per hour: Denise LaBarre and Susan Quagliana. We need, that's what was, they were not, okay.
About that? No discussion until you.
We need to give Barbara permission. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
$9.93 an hour.
I'll
He
second
did.
it for discussion.
So discussion wise.
Discussion, let's go.
My discussion is, did you say step B?
Step B.
Why is it step B? We hire people at step A. We don't hire people at step B.
Ooh, I missed that.
I missed it too because I don't have it in front of me.
Step B, well, were they previously employed by the?
No, I don't believe so.
You want to hold off?
Well, maybe
No,
we got,
we can approve hire at step A.
which is budgeted too.
Well, I don't know if it's budgeted or
It's
not.
not budgeted.
I mean, it's seasonal, it's replacement workers, and I'd like to have more of a discussion on this, but I know that they're behind, or they're short on staff, because they have people that can't make it, and this, that, and everything else. We've gotten communications from them before, so I don't want to hold it up. But at the same time, I don't want to hire people with the wrong rate of pay, because we don't do that. And number two, the next time this comes up, I'm not going to be in favor of approving it, because we need to have a conversation about what this is all about, what's the impact, who are they replacing, where's the money coming from?
Seems like we need more information.
You know, we sure do, but I don't want to hold the
I'd
hire
like
up
to, I'd like
because
to
they're
hire them,
short-staffed.
I'd like to hire them at the initial rate of pay, and then we can change it and adjust it as necessary, because they need staff.
I'm willing to do that, but I also want the communication to go back to Golden Age.
Yep.
That we can't have stuff turned in with I don't have any paperwork on it, nothing. I had no idea that I could have called up the director down there and had a conversation about this until tonight
Well,
at 6 o'clock.
I will make a motion to entertain or to hire these people at
We did that.
initial rate of pay rather than
Oh,
step
I
B.
see.
Well, you can amend your motion.
I'll amend the motion,
Well, Mike's-
instead of step B, $9.93, we'll have the initial rate of pay.
That's motion, I second.
Mike, you okay with that? It's your motion.
I will say yes. I'll second the motion, but further discussion.
Go ahead, what's the discussion?
So yeah, this is not budgeted. I actually thought this was different, and part of it is I didn't have the paperwork in front of me. So now I do recall some of the conversation on this matter, and I believe that we need to better understand the staffing there. I'm not convinced I'm concerned that we need to be more creative with the staffing, or look at how it's currently staffed, and maybe there's a different alternative fix before we go and hire someone inappropriately. So I'm concerned that if we hire someone, suddenly we're in a situation where we're actually overstaffed.
If I'm correct, Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, we can let part-time people go, seasonal people go without any problems. Correct.
There's a personal part of that, though.
I understand that, but at the same time, I think this is the issue. If you read those emails through, they hire people at 19 hours, and this person works 15, and this person works 12, and then they don't come in because they're whatever, and they're short-staffed. They have been budgeted for 19 hours a week, but they're not spending that money. I think this is going to cover that.
But my concern would be if suddenly everyone starts working the 19 hours and suddenly we're overstaffed.
Well, the director would have to schedule that.
If you think they're overstaffed, I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but go over there when they have to cook.
No, I hear you.
It's very understaffed.
The issue is that we've hired people for 19 hours and are not working 19 hours. As long as that continues, then, and we're really not increasing any budget, we're just filling those gaps. My concern would be is if we're overstaffing and suddenly people are there 19 hours and suddenly we have to let someone go. And there is a personal
Yeah.
aspect to cutting someone.
That was wrong for me to talk about it that way, because really the solution is that you have a certain pot of money, and if you have 20 people at 19 hours a week, but you can only pay for 10 people at 19 hours a week, then you have to adjust those schedules.
Okay, so I'd like us to change the motion, I'll be okay with saying we hire if we say that provided we still stay within the budgeted payroll, of the department.
That's fine with me.
And I really think that's what's causing the shortage. It's not that, if we were fully staffed and fully at 19 hours, I think we'd have the right staffing.
Yep.
Step A.
Okay, that's step A.
It's step A. So we need to just make sure that we.
Are you amending the motion?
Yes.
So what's the amendment?
So the amendment is, provided we maintain the budgeted hours at what was budgeted January 1st.
I think they're gonna do that, so, is there a second?
Yeah, I did that.
All in roll call?
Madigan.
Aye.
Delacup.
Aye.
Veronica. Kenny. McMurray.
Aye. We have to approve a request for property division of the real estate owned by Frank Sizik at 2166 Long Road. Judy, John, and Doug have reviewed and see no issues. I'll entertain a motion.
Second?
Any discussion on this? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Further to our conversation in the workshop, I want to appoint the town board, myself as chairman, to act as the committee to develop an RFP for the community center. And the process of, in the accompanying process. I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If there are any public comments, please come to the microphone.
Oh,
Ooh.
budget.
Budget. Ooh, my bad. We'll do the audit. Mike, please.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to pay the following amounts out of the following accounts. General fund, $70,195,000.68. Highway fund, $3,033.66. Sewer fund, $30,753.08. Water fund, $16,729.24. Capital fund, $141,038, or $141,038.49. And there is actually one additional, the garbage fund, which is $118,875.90, for a total of $380,626.05.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 If there are any public comments on any matter, please go to the mic. Please keep your comments to 2 minutes. Go ahead, you know the rules.
Bryce Shipman, 2026 Road, Grand Island. Just want to say that they just had the tournament down in Buffalo for the hockey for the juniors, and 18 vacation rentals were rented. Don't know if there were any problems on Grand Island. For the NCAA tournaments, 27 were rented. Did you have any problems on Grand Island? Obviously not. Just wanted you to know that. Thanks.
Hey, okay, any other public comments? Going once, going twice, 3 times, thank you very much. Any comments from the town board? Go for Councilman Veronica, Councilman Bielanca, Councilman Madigan,
Nope.
Councilman Kinney.
Yes, I would like to, a lot of people have gone already, but I really have to say for a group of people that have come in when we're really in infancy stages of something like the Exum Market and struggling to find our way to do the right thing and to accommodate them and what their needs are. I really, as a sitting board member, really appreciated their respect. They put their ideas forward. I thank a lot of them who met with me this week, helped me understand, the direction that they're going in and the direction that I have to see the farming community go in, which I fully support. So I would just say thank you to the farming community for coming out and being so respectful, but still getting your ideas across, reaching out to most of us here on the board and having one-on-one conversations. If they were all very personable, respectful, but definitely, you know, wanted to work with the town board to make us understand what their needs were. So I thank everybody for that.
Thank you. Ray, I know you hate this, you and I go through this all the time, you and I have an odd relationship, but I want to say to everyone in attendance, including the farmers, that Ray Billica, I've come to know him as a person that tries hard to do what's right for Grand Island. Sometimes I do not agree with his vision or interpretation, but this is a good man trying his best. And he comes across the wrong way sometimes, and so do I, so I know what it's like. But I really do appreciate it, Ray, and if my comment was a little disguised and disrespectful earlier, I apologize.
You appreciate me too, right?
Yeah, I appreciate you, too, of course. And I appreciate my mom. Motion is in order to adjourn tonight's meeting at 9 o'clock. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, sorry, the second there is, Deb, your second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Please rise. Tonight we will observe a moment of silence in memory of L.C. Fleischman and Gary Young, Jr. Meeting adjourned.